Hello, and welcome to the Daring to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Juliana Yao Jorgen, and today I'm joined by author, lecturer, and coach Michael Thompson. Mike grew up painfully shy with a debilitating stutter. Despite still being shy and at times still stuttering, today Mike is a career coach, leadership lecturer for master's students in Barcelona, Spain, and a strategic communication advisor to top business leaders around the globe. He is the author of Shy by Design, 12 Timeless Principles to Quietly Stand Out, and his work has appeared in dozens of mainstream publications, including Fast Company, Insider, and Inc. When he's not with students and clients to scale their impact on their own terms, he can be found exploring the Mediterranean with his wife and two young boys in his adopted home of Palamos, Spain. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to meet someone else in Spain in the same arena.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll start off our questions with the one I ask all of my guests, which is, do you consider yourself more introverted, extroverted, or a bit of both?
I'm a little bit of like a scale from 0 to 100. I'm introverted, probably like down towards the bottom. But I've become kind of a practiced extrovert just because I love people. I'm fascinated by people, and I like being around people.
Mm-hmm.
And my work is like, it's kind of a thing like where I teach in front of groups, and that's still not comfortable for me. It's just one of those things that I do because it's not about me. And I I love being around students of different backgrounds. But the second that I get a chance to kind of escape and go back to myself, I take it. And just this past weekend, my wife and kids were away for 48 hours. And
nice.
The typical, I went out once to buy food, and the rest of the time I was at home. It's like I get like energy from people, but I need to recharge pretty quickly after people. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, I find a lot of introverts have learned to be more extroverted, or we actually do quite enjoy being around people. I think a lot of people think that introverts are just like these antisocial shut-ins, but like you said, it's just that recharge time we really need on our own.
Yeah, and I like to think like I need time to think and process kind of what I'm doing. Like I think that's why I connected with writing. I started maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and it was one of those things where I was like, why wasn't I doing this since day one?
Yeah.
Like to think before I speak. Like growing up stuttering is like the writing played a huge role in actually stuttering less.
Right.
Is because I took the time to like write down stories, thoughts, feelings. So it's more about like I know what I'm going to say. Now it's more just focusing on how I'm going to say it.
Right.
So it's one of those kick me moments where I went into sales for 15 years, and then I say, oh, maybe I should have been writing instead. But no, it's actually like it's really calm. Just the exercise of like, who am I? It took me 37 years to ask those questions. I was just kind of. But with the introversion, yeah, like I love people. I've always been kind of in awe of people. But just how we operate is like I have to be in small doses. I like small gatherings. I love one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Even dinner among friends, sitting at a table for too long. It's not for me.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of your love for people and getting into sales, how did your upbringing impact your confidence, and what actually inspired you to pursue sales as someone who's shy and has a stutter?
So yeah, growing up in like, it's a good question. Like in something that like my book is about this, it is the stories we tell ourselves. And growing up, I was surrounded by. My dad was in the Air Force, so we were moving around from Army base, from Air Force base to Air Force base, and the instruction like was kind of always just like keep your head high, shoulders back. If you're gonna like when you shake hands, try to break it. And I was the opposite of this. And my dad, like not like environment affects behavior, right? So he had, like now he's softer, like he's softened, like since he's retired.
Yeah.
But being around his friends, colleagues, that rubbed off on me. And I always thought that I was kind of weak, I needed like like the strengths I had, I kind of even hid those unconsciously just because like they weren't recognized strengths in the world I was living in. So like being curious and sensitive, vulnerable and observer, those things have made my career. But at the time in the 80s growing up, like it was like the typical like action film is like always strong, buff men who like will face fear, like they love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that impacted the story. I would like in my head of like there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm not strong. I'm not all these things of I wasn't, like instead of thinking about like who I am. And I took the job in sales as kind of a Hail Mary. Like I was 23, I had gotten fired from my first job as a data analyst at a bank. And I did not I did not like working on numbers, like it wasn't a fit. Blew my confidence a little bit, but at the same time I was relieved because I knew that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And one of the managers actually had suggested, like, have you thought about sales? Like, and I was like, have you lost your mind? And he was like, you're actually really like, he was like, you're really good with people. Like, I don't know if you see it, but you make people comfortable. And I went on interviews. I saw all my buddies were like getting jobs at good places and enjoying themselves and going on trips. And I was like sitting on the sofa unemployed. And I said, screw it. I'm going to try this sales interview thing. And I found a place that was kind of dumb enough to take me, I guess. Like give me a like straight commission job. They didn't have to lose a lot.
Yeah.
But that was kind of my Mount Everest of like to do the thing that kind of scares me the most, just to get out of the place I was in internally and to kind of break free and just be like, hey, I need to put myself out into the world. And it seemed like I do not know what I was thinking of jumping in the deep end first. It kind of goes against everything that I teach and work with clients first of like taking small steps, being deliberate.
Right.
But I felt like I had to do something. And the sales job was just the first thing that came into my head. And I did it. And,
and it worked out?
Like it worked out well, actually. Yeah, like it didn't work out well in the beginning, but it worked out well long term. Yeah.
Nice. And I know you talk about a lot in your book about choosing comfort over confidence, which I actually really love that concept because so often, especially, I don't know why, maybe because introverts are tagged as shy, like inward people, we're always told to be pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zone and doing the uncomfortable thing. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by comfort over confidence?
Sure. This kind of came to me the third day of my sales job is like, we had to do a role play thing. And I'm betting you're similar to me of like, you do not like doing role plays. And my manager, like I was with the corporate trainer and all the other new hires, and my manager saw like how I was responding to the idea of doing a role play. And he pulled me aside and he was like, I'm stealing you for the day. And what he did is he sat me in the corner of a desk. He gave me a pile of leads, a couple scripts. And he was like, do your thing. Like, and he laughed. And I was like, you're not going to sit with me. And he was like, no, like, it's like, if you're not comfortable, you're not going to show up to work tomorrow. He's like, I don't like role plays either.
Yeah.
Find your own way. Like, and at 23, that was kind of the first time I was ever given like leeway to like, hey, I can figure this thing out. And also the comfort of, he gave me a bunch of dead leads that were old. So it was just me, like the whole practice was me just picking up the phone. I still stutter on M's and I was selling mortgages and my name is Michael. So it's like my first 10 seconds was like a tongue twister for me. Like, and I got hung up on countless times. But it was like, my name is Michael Thompson. I'm from National Fidelity Mortgage. Like, it just wasn't like, it was one of those things that like, once I got that rhythm though, and I kind of laughed about it and I was like, all right, like I can do this. I can do it. So that's one side of like the comfort of finding the hard thing that you want to do. And what's your easy button for it for me, it was doing it alone, like just like practicing alone so I could get comfortable. And the more comfortable I am, like the customers on the other end of the line also. And then like in terms of growing your your confidence, is like I always like to try like through that lesson of starting easy. We think about things of like meeting new people on the street or something. Um, there are ways to not have that be a like a nerve-wracking exchange. Like, and it took me a long time to learn that like the goal of a first impression like is to have a second conversation. Like
Right.
that's it. Like it doesn't have to be mind-blowing. Like find where you're comfortable. It's like if it's asking somebody about the weather, like making a comment of the weather, like I know it's like we shouldn't say that, but it's just a way of like people need a time to get a read on you. If you're approaching anybody
Right.
on the street, guards go straight up.
Yep.
Like in something of the weather, if I have a connection with someone, like I've never thought afterwards, like she was cool, but there's no way I'd like that comment of it being cloudy was lunacy. Um, so it's just like we usually don't even remember like the first initial
The
exchange with
specific.
someone.
Yeah.
Like asking someone how they're doing. Here in Spain, that's all you hear is "qué tal?" Like
Yes.
"todo bien."
Back and
Like,
forth and back and forth.
but that's kind of just the dance, just to get like loosened up a bit, and for for people to have some space and time.
Right.
So like over the years, I found some really good questions that do make me comfortable because I like stories from people, and that help with the people I'm speaking with. And one is from a friend, Kim Dabbs, who I helped on her book on belonging.
Hmm.
Like, and she likes to ask people, "Where do you call home?" So
Oh,
after a
interesting.
like initial like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like first couple of basic, really easy softball questions. That question though, like it gets to the heart of where someone feels the most comfortable.
Hmm.
Like, and maybe if it's you, it's not in Madrid, it's still at home somewhere. Like, and that,
Right.
like, you would light up a bit talking about that. Like, and it
Right.
opens the door for more questions about your upbringing. What were you like? So it's just a nice little flip of like, where are you from? Um, but my goal, I think, with everybody is to get them as comfortable as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And by doing that, I feel more confident. So it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, and I find that's a really good strategy for a lot of introverts because a lot of the times we don't like to talk about ourselves, or it just takes us a little bit more time to warm up to someone to really open up or feel comfortable sharing. So kind of putting them in the comfort zone first seems like a really great approach.
Yeah, and it's the thing of how you approach someone. It's not the alpha kind of approach. It's more like a puppy dog almost, like head a
Yeah.
little bit to the side. Like you don't have to follow a just be you on it, but a little bit of a smile or something. Those things do go a long way. And it's finding like, for example, too, for my own comfort, like I've lived around a lot, like in 3 different continents, a bunch of different cities. Like, and I go, so like I don't drink anymore. But one of the
Mm.
first things I do is I have like lunch at the same bar like once a week. Like, and I'll sit at the bar, and like bartenders are paid to talk to you, right? Like they're paid to ensure you're having a good time. They can also tell if you're not too open. They'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
And they're really tied in with their community. So like if you hit it off, they'll probably introduce you to someone. So finding those like that works really well for me. But like
Hmm.
you, like if you're approaching somebody shy, like you don't want to ask them like, what does your dream day look like right off the bat.
Too
It's
much.
like it's too much too soon, and it's just like you're allowed to play a little bit back and forth
Yeah.
of the simple things, like don't overthink it. Just basic questions, get it moving, smile a little bit, and then spot your opening.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're going to have a lot of these really great stories and inspirational uh, motivations in your book.
Yeah, I hope so. It's kind of a collection of what I've like it's not a how-to of do these 12 principles. It's more inspiring like readers to think of their own 12 principles.
Right.
Um, so instead of how to, it's how I navigated, like, and more importantly, like what the people around me taught me to
Mm.
help me navigate it. So it's a lot of like little short tips, like the thing of Kim.
Right.
So I'm like, my story is the spine of it, but yeah, it's like there's a lot of heroes in someone's hero's journey, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And speaking of kind of confidence, what exercises would you recommend for someone who's looking to build confidence and act with boldness in the moments that really matter?
So this is something like there's two things I do. And the first one's a little quirky. And the second thing is really actionable that like I have the letters on my wall as a reminder. Um, but I keep a holy shit jar of kind of the times that I said to myself, holy shit, I did that. Right.
Right.
We may not think about it very much, but we're all like, if we're listening to this or we're talking now, like we're both alive. Like, and that means we've overcome challenges, hardships, um, and taking a little bit of pride in that. Like we've both moved to new countries. Like maybe there's days where we're like feeling lost and lonely and like we're weak or what. You know, it's just like, wow, like we just did an incredibly brave thing.
Yeah.
Like that's a big example, but basically like anytime you overcome something, like today I'll probably have a holy shit like note of doing a podcast interview just because it's like I like to share my messages, but it's like I like being in person, and video, like, and audio is a new thing. So this is a big thing for me.
Right.
So I'm going to like have a note of all the times I overcame something. That kind of serves as a reminder of the things we have gone through, and taking pride in that. Like yeah, I ask myself a couple of questions every day, and like one of them is like, what what made you proud today?
Hmm.
Like and focusing on like the good things we are doing. So between the challenges and our daily like good things, like that that helps me to push through. Like, and the second is something I share in the book. Is a friend of mine, Jeanette. She wrote a book on the self-care mindset, it's called.
Okay.
And like I helped her on her book, and I had learned like I had my loved one got a serious health issue. I couldn't travel home because of COVID. She asked me right in the middle of this. I was juggling another book. And she was like, I was 45 when both of my parents died of cancer. This book is how I reclaimed agency.
Right.
And maybe it's just the thing that you need right now. So she kind of sold me into helping on the book. But one of her frameworks that works just like it's my go-to is called triple A, like, and it's acknowledge, accept, ask. So
Okay.
kind of acknowledge the circumstances. You're like, as a more hands-on example, if you have to give a talk at a like at work, like, and you don't like public speaking, like acknowledge that the date that that you have these feelings inside, you're worried, concerned, fear of embarrassment, get them down on paper, like acknowledge what you're feeling. kind, kind of accept that the date's approaching, like it's going to come no matter what, like, and accept your emotions for like as being human. Like I see being a worrier is the same thing as being someone who cares a lot. So
Right.
it's kind of like if you're worried about something, like write it down. Like you're allowed to worry about something, like and accept it, and then ask, what do I need so that I can gain more confidence,
Right.
re- regain my my footing. And like in the thing of a presentation, like it could be starting off where you were doing well, like in your practice, to get some momentum again. It could be that you go for a walk. Like it could be you step away for 24 hours.
Right.
It could be that you call friends, like who's going to like allow you to flounder a bit and to practice with them. Like, and it's like, it just helps you to identify like what's that next small step you can take
Mm.
to get going again. So I have that
Yeah.
literally like on my office wall, and it's just the remind, like it's so simple. It's like, hey, I'm human, and like I feel nervous, of course I do, like this is a scary thing. And then asking, what do I need to move forward?
Yeah. I think that's such a better framework than those motivational posters that are also on walls where it's just like, just push yourself beyond, because it, like the idea of acknowledging the discomfort is so important. Like even with your example of doing a presentation at work, that is really nerve-wracking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them just kind of hope that the day it comes, they can pump themselves up and it'll be okay. And honestly, it's such a bad way to go about it because you're not properly prepared for that moment. Like I remember doing a lot of presentations and people are like, how do you do that so well? I'm like, well, I probably practiced that maybe 20 times,
Yeah.
5 times in my head and
For
15 out
preparation.
loud in a meeting room so that it
Yeah.
would feel really comfortable when I'm doing it. And they're like, oh my God, it seems so natural. Well, yeah, that's because I'm really nervous and I wanted to make sure it was going to, like, I was going to present well.
Like, it's funny how it's usually the ones who are kind of like, oh, I'm going to screw this up, who end up doing really well with it just because of the caring aspect.
Hmm.
Um, but too, it is a thing of growing up. Like, I had like some bad experiences with job interviews, presentations. Like, I got asked once to sit, like, a guy, like, I think it was my first sales interview. Like, the guy slid across the desk his pen, like in a movie. Like, I was like,
Oh,
sell me this pen,
God.
like Glengarry Glen Ross or something. And I did not like I didn't know anything about sales. Like, and
Right.
I stood up and I shaked his hand. I gave him his pen back, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And
This isn't going to happen.
like, this isn't gonna work. And like, but that experience stuck with me in other interviews. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
all the times we kind of screw up, like, stick with, like, we can do 100 things right, like, and you'll still have that time that you screwed up a presentation. Like, just
Yeah.
for me, like in high school, I gave a presentation. I had to like wait, like the kid, like I was the last one to go. Of course, I was like, it's like I should go first now. I know that, just to get out of the way. But I
Yeah.
went last, and like my speech ran out. Like, it's like I got hung up, and the speech ran over like minutes after the class was out.
Oh
So it was just
gosh.
kind of like this, like a bunch of 14-year-olds sitting there, like backpacks in their hands, like knees shaking, like, when's this kid get finished? Like, and those things stuck, yeah, and like, and that carries with you. Like, and the only way to break those memories is to create new ones,
Yeah.
like, and focus on the times that you do right. But it's fun to think of ways. The preparing thing, like, I love that you do it in a meeting room.
Hmm.
Like, and one thing I do to get started is, like, I took some time off to write the book and help with clients' books, and that, like, now I'm like back in front again. And my way of doing that was I started to read stories at my kids' schools in English.
Right.
Like, and that was just me getting in front of a group of kids and trying to keep their attention reading a story that they didn't understand.
Right.
So it's like I had to get goofy and hands gestures and exaggerate, like, but that was my way. Like, I was doing, like, totally selfish of
Yeah.
like, that's my comfort way of, but they're not going to make fun of me at, like, to their group of friends, like, tonight at the bar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was just a simple thing to do.
Yeah, I think practicing in a real life situation makes such a big difference because then you're kind of in the mindset rather than sort of in this crucible that doesn't have anything to do with the reality. Like I think of people who
Yeah.
run marathons and a lot of them will actually practice on either the exact route or a route that's similar so that they're familiar with it and their body's conditioned. And I think
Yeah.
when you talk about building confidence that way, it's really similar with building confidence in the situation that you're actually going to face.
Yeah. Yeah. The lower the stakes, the better in the beginning, like,
Yeah.
do it alone the first time and then maybe ask a friend to sit in the conference room with you or something. Like, I think it's in Susan Cain's book, Quiet, where she, like, her public speaking coach, I think the
Mm,
first day they just had to stand up and say their name.
right.
Like, and the second day they went up on stage together
Right.
and talked for a little bit. Like, and it was just like those small things really do work, huh?
Yeah.
Just to get you
And
comfortable, or like to ask a question at someone else's presentation, like to
right.
stand up and raise your hand, like, like, you can ease in to all of these things. But the confidence you get by just that one presentation that does do well is life changing. Like it really is life changing, I think.
It really is. Yeah, well, I'm just mindful of time, and I did want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about your book, which I'm super excited about. Um, I know you talked about it a little bit already, but can you share a bit more about what people can expect inside the book?
Yes, yeah. So the name of the book is "Shy by Design: Time 12 Timeless Principles to Quietly Stand Out." And it's basically the book that I wish I had when I was starting out in my career and going forward. Like just kind of like you can dip in and out of it.
Hmm.
Like in the sense that there's stories like and actual tips like weave throughout the book. It's kind of the like you can have it on your nightstand,
Right.
but it's essentially like the book I needed. And my oldest son stutters like and is shy.
Mm.
And it's just kind of a book that just to let him know he's already cool, like and have some actionable things that don't sound condescending. Like for me, like I don't like being told what to do.
Right.
And writing in the self-help industry, I think living in Europe helps
Yeah.
just because it's like you have to soften it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and for him just to have a guide and countless like my students here in Barcelona too. It's like they kept pushing me to like all of your articles, your teachings and classes, like get it into a book, please.
Yeah.
So it's very much my like it's the top of my first mountain, so to speak. I'm 45,
Yeah.
like, and it's my lessons learned, what the good people in the world have taught me, a bunch of stories of me screwing up, and yeah, like it's kind of like not like from going from not from good to great, but from bad to not awful. You know what I mean? Like with presentations, I won't be Tony Robbins probably ever, but I I've gone from petrified and awful to kind like getting excited about it, like and also not being horrible at it. So it's just
Which I
kind of
think is,
like this spark to get people moving.
and that's such an important niche to fill, I think, because most of us aren't going to be Tony Robbins anyway. So I love that your stories are more about a real person kind of going from a place of being terrified of something or terrible at something to, yeah, I can do this. I can get excited.
Yeah, and at 45, like I'm still just as scared as I was at times when I was 20. It's like I have confidence in some areas, but I think that's what makes life kind of interesting, though. I want to be like, yeah, like face problems and have challenges. Like that's life, It's
Yeah.
like, so I'm happy that the way that like I was nervous in the book, but I'm thrilled how it turned out. And you can find it on my website, which is michaelthompson.art, like art,
Okay.
like artist. And on LinkedIn, I'm Michael Thompson. There's a lot of me.
Yeah, I'll make sure I have the
My
exact links
website
in the
has all
show
the links.
notes.
Yeah, I just try to point everyone just to the website just because the disbursement is there. But
Cool. Yeah, I'll make sure our listeners can find you wherever you are, and the right Mike Thompson.
yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. It's been lovely talking to you, Mike.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's been really great getting to know you. And you've been a massive help for me the last month. So it
Oh,
feels, yeah, like this one, me, like this episode, yeah, like it means a lot.
yeah, absolutely. No, I love bringing people like you onto the podcast to share their stories and spread their knowledge out to everybody out there.
Thanks
Cool.
again. And I'll talk to you sooner than later.
Yeah. Thanks to all the listeners, and we'll see you next time.